So please tell me a little bit more about your background, the organization you're working with, and then about the platform.
Cool. Okay. So I work for a small company called Freely Give in the UK. We're spread across the UK, so we've all been working from home anyway. Started it with a close friend of mine back when I was a teenager, and we originally started doing work for churches. Then we branched out to sort of larger church networks. So we did stuff for free when we were much younger. Then we started working for these different charities and organizations. Started building websites, moved into databases, and particularly any kind of database, any kind of website where the data in your database and the front end stuff are deeply intertwined. So where you're expecting people who are outside of your organization to manage your data in some way. An example is clinks.org is a site that we have, and they do in the UK anything. They're like an umbrella charity for any charities that work in the with prisoners or the voluntary sector for the sort of like probationary services, the criminal justice sector, etc. So they have a lot of places where people have to log in and manage their own data because they're a charity in the directory, so they can deal with it themselves and ask some questions. Then we've expanded to doing some stuff for the rail network in the UK, particularly delay repay. So that's been our experience. Our software is all free open source software, so I was particularly, when I was younger, I was quite zealous about the free open software world. And we work with something called Drupal. I don't know if you've heard of that yourself.
Yes, I have.
Cool. Okay, so we work with Drupal, and what we have done is we've taken Drupal. It's a very flexible platform for changing your data with a nice clicky, draggy UI, so that non-developers can do a lot. And we've adapted it slightly so it can be a CRM system as well. And we built some tools into Drupal, so we call it a native Drupal CRM system, as opposed to a completely separate system that integrates with Drupal. It's all the same thing. Um, which means as a CRM system, it's not always as good as the others, but as a fully integrated CRM system, it's really good at people accessing their own data. And so we've adapted that to this mutual aid situation because that's a perfect example where we're finding a lot of councils and a lot of charities have CRM systems where again they assume every single person can log in as a member of staff, and that isn't working very well for these now very large volunteer-led things or things popping up on Facebook. Um, so we decided to adapt it to particularly help with the one main problem of lots of people offering for their support by email, by Google Sheets, by Facebook, and it's just this huge, massive data, and then lots of people asking for them, but there's no real way of keeping track of it. You kind of look at a Facebook message and you can see all the replies and vaguely figure out if it's being resolved. So our thing was trying to resolve that. And we've worked very closely to, I think I sent a message about Dean Russell, as a local MP in Watford, and he's been very keen on this because he's had a lot of emails himself and has started sending people to send out food parcels, etc. He's been working with local councils and government organisations to do that. And then we've also been speaking to a couple of smaller charities, and then just the Facebook groups have been popping up. We've been chatting to them about it. Um, we currently have now finally got it to a place it could go live yesterday. So we've got one small client using it for delivering. They were a charity that had a cafe, and so now suddenly they have a lot of food because the cafe shut down, obviously. So they've switched to sending out these, just donating them to vulnerable people in the area they know. Um, yeah, um, I could go on, but why don't I stop there for a bit and you can ask me questions, and then I'll talk a bit about what we're planning for the future of this.
Great. So, sorry, I'm familiar with Drupal, but only to the point of that I know what it's used for.
Yeah.
Um, so, in regards to sharing it as an open source, do you pick that out of Drupal or is it like on GitHub?
So we're using GitLab
GitLab.
at the moment, and basically it's going to be any day now. It's just a case of everyone's very, very busy all the time with lots of different things, so it's hard to predict timelines. But we're kind of on the cusp of we just need to press a button and make it public. Um, if I found there's a couple of developers who I know who I've given direct access to our private GitLab stuff. If it turns out developers really want this, then that would encourage me to put more effort into to getting my devs. We're 7 people, by the way, with 4 developers, our company. So it would encourage my devs to really prioritize pushing our GitLab into a public repository instead of a private one. We do have it there. Actually, I think we actually have it now. So I think if anyone wants to see it, basically send me a message and I can share it.
Okay,
So
great. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna want to look at that with my dev team here, just so that we can. I know you offered to host it, which we're very thankful for. But I think given our mutual aid groups like real focus on security, that they would want to set up a secure server themselves.
hmm.
And we have the teams and the capability here in Lansing to do that. I'm sure
Yeah, we need
that
to go to the UK as well. That's going to be complicated.
yeah, yeah, it would just be a lot of back and forth that could easily just be taken off because change in hours, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really good. I think the second point to that though is I'm my company organizing together. I used to be an aid worker. And so I used to work in refugee camps, and my main focus was to organize the civil society organizations to help streamline service provision. And so I'm coming at this from kind of the capacity building aspect of mutual aid. So we started a network on Mighty Networks. And we actually only did a soft launch February 25th. And we were going to slowly build out the membership and test and see how things worked. But now we've just expanded it on the fly, and we've
Yeah.
created a mutual aid course, a training course, and then
Yeah, I
a
saw that. Yeah.
hub for people who are starting mutual aid in their communities. So I would like to also get this a course of it set up on our platform so that other people know about it when they come looking for mutual aid resources. Because I think that there's a lot of organizations who have been looking for this. There is a platform in that was built for a mutual aid organization in Chicago, but
Yeah.
it's not open source.
Yeah.
And their team doesn't necessarily have all the know-how how to recreate that and set that up. So we're hoping then we can help connect you with other mutual aid groups across the globe.
Cool.
Because I think that this
Do you have
is going to be
developers in your
super,
organization?
super helpful.
Do you have developers in your organization then?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what kind of languages they use and what tools they tend to use? Or
Um, we have such a plethora of developers because it's a volunteer service. So, are you familiar with Code for America?
no, no, I'm not.
Code for America is a federal program that started in the early 2000s. Now its membership is over 100,000 developers across the country. And we have everything's open source. You can't develop something through Code for America if it's not open source. And what their development team does is help communities and local governments build technology to help reach people and to help facilitate more progressive public policy initiatives, data initiatives, things like that. So, as a community leader, I have access to the overall Code for America brigade, and I also have access to the local development teams here in Lansing. So right now they've been working on a volunteer management system for another organization, but I think I'm going to ask them to put that aside for a moment since that's focused on having people in house in the community center while they're doing volunteer management and focus on setting this up.
Okay, cool.
So I would definitely want to schedule with you another meeting for next week with the development team sometime today, just so we already have that, as I have a feeling your schedule is going to get very busy.
So we're on the. I mean, it's either we're either in the calm before the storm, or um, it's not super busy right now. So getting in with any meetings would be good. I'm sort of waiting. It's one of these things that it's either going to go absolutely nowhere or it's going to explode because I think there's going to be a lot of these initiatives around. In the UK, the NHS have made their own volunteer management system based around something called Good Sam that my cousin's involved with. So Good Sam does a lot of stuff. I think in Africa, stuff to do with first aid responders. Um, so I don't know if Good Sam is open source or if it's proprietary, but that whilst you're looking at things, it's probably worth taking a look at that because we've had 500,000 people sign up to it in the UK for this thing. But it is going to be very much the government centrally controlled, the most vulnerable people, sending out food packages to those people. My thinking is the advantage of open source is it's going to have bigger reach because it's going to be focused on local communities.
Yes, and I'm not sure how much you follow the U.S. government lately, but it's not very useful right now. So it seems that there are definitely some issues with everyone's government and issues with the UK, but I have a feeling that they've been more proactive in supporting local initiatives than our federal system has. So
Yeah, very, very, very good with it, our government.
and I know that mutual aid, given the current crisis with ICE agents and detentions and immigration, they want to keep private identification data away from the government. So that's going to be really important here. I also I started a nonprofit called Refugees Welcome, and we created a immigrant service map that helps coordinate, like helps migrants find services. And so we've had to do a lot of masking of our data and really had to scale back what we wanted to do because of what's been going on here. But we also work with a company called Migport in Turkey that focuses on selling masked data about migrants to the governments in Europe. They have a contract with the EU. Um, and what they do is they ask strategic questions and then migrants answer them and then they get money in their accounts.
Right.
And so that hasn't been able to take off here, even though the federal government has gave them a contract because people are like, no migrants going to hand over any kind of data like that. So unsheltered people, migrants, undocumented individuals in the United States will not use this mutual aid platform if it's not local and it's in a secure server.
So it's so interesting the difference between American and UK culture because, like, definitely I'm finding with the UK, a lot of the small groups, the thing that makes them trust our stuff is that we're working with government, and the government brand over the top of it is making everyone be like, yeah, I can put my data here. If government has it, I'll trust it. Whereas I'm doing stuff with charities as well, which are less linked, and people aren't interested in that. But in America, obviously, you have a very different thing. It's like, no, it's specifically the government.
We have a
Because
weird, yeah, weird relationship with our government. And so, and
especially scale as well. Oh my goodness, everything in the UK is much smaller, and people that have they don't want to grow it that big. So um, yeah, so I'm intrigued to see what will happen if you get any US devs involved in this because
for
uh,
sure, for sure. So I think going forward, what I will do is if you could send me all relevant links that you have. I will also, if it's okay, I will share the password and the login information that you sent me. I haven't had time. I have 7 meetings today um,
yeah,
to be able to log in, but I will. And then also, if you could send me a link to your GitLab or anything like that, just so people can take a kind of superficial look at what we'll need and what type of knowledge we'll need from our dev team. And then let's schedule another meeting for next week with the dev team around whatever schedule you can make it, and we'll just try to get people on it. And if I have to move it, I'll let you know as soon as possible. Because I
right.
know.
Pick the time and I'll make it happen.
Okay, great.
Um,
I can definitely do that. I will send out a poll then for my team and try to make it within hours that seem logical for the UK.
yeah, of course.
um, and
Obviously, I'm
then
now, so evenings I can work as well. I'm working throughout the day, so
great.
not too early in the morning, but evenings is fine.
Great. And then I would like to schedule an additional meeting with you next week between me and you to talk about how we can get this up on the OT platform so that other organizations can find it. And then maybe even talk about strategy about how we can reach out to other mutual aid groups who need this platform. So I will let you know about the meeting with the team. Let me know what time next week for our meeting is good for you.
Okay, well, it'll be the same kind of thing. Pick a time.
Okay.
And we'll,
This time usually is pretty good for you. 2
yep,
p.m.
yep.
Okay, let me open up my calendar real quick. Um, I feel bad. I've put my research assistantship. I just like told them that I had to take 2 weeks off, so I'm wondering. And then my scheduled meeting I have with my research advisor, she just didn't show up, but that's not uncommon.
Yeah,
Um,
community organizing. I can imagine you're quite busy at the moment.
It's just been crazy. Uh, let's do that on Wednesday, April 1st.
Wednesday, April 1st, 2 p.m. Cool. Is it worth me, we can talk about it later, but is it worth me talking a little bit about the roadmap of what we're planning to improve it
Yes,
with?
please.
So
That would be great.
okay, so if you, once we got the public GitLab open, you'll see it all in GitLab. But our biggest thing at the moment is figuring out how to scale things. So we haven't quite figured that out yet. So in the UK, as I said, people trust government more. So our thinking is what we're going to do is make this enable something so local councils and government can use, and then the small like Facebook-style mutual aid groups will get access to some area of that site. And what they'll have is they'll sort of have a work group where any contacts they load into the system they can manage and they can see full access to the data, and any support requests they load in the system they can manage, and they can match things up for their siloed data. But then the government will have oversight over it. So local government will have oversight over it to do things like verify, do they think that person is reasonable, etc. So that's our thinking of one way that we'll scale it, where at the moment I'm thinking each local region in the UK will have its own site where the MP wants to use it or council wants to use it, and then local groups will plug into that, and charities will plug into that. So that's our current idea. The other idea of scaling it is making it so that, because again this is Drupal, we can easily build like every single different organizational group has their own instance. So we could build something where, firstly, we can just set it up, but we've already got some technology to make it so that within like 5 minutes you can spin up a new instance over and over again. So we could do something more similar to software as a service, where every single different group scales it and builds it themselves. And if you've got any devs who know Drupal, there's a lot of Drupal initiatives in the US that have been working at doing this for different purposes. So it's something that if your team wants to take on it, that kind of thing is the kind of thing you could do quite easily. So we could go down two different roads or somewhere in between of having it so that there is one site, but it's possible for data to be shared or not. I'm getting the sense that keeping data as separate as possible is a good thing for you.
Yeah, I think it is a good thing. It just depends. It just depends, it's hard I've found in discussing this with communities when it's not a local group, they're very skeptical of sharing any kind of data information, as I said. So I think momentarily it might be good just for us to set ours up right now. I think maybe moving over to a web service would be fine eventually as well. Because then it would be interesting to do data analysis of like where all these are going on across the globe, how people are using it, what types of resources are they distributing. I'm a researcher, so this is like my analytical mind going there. One aspect that I'm very interested in is the fact, so right now we are using EverSign to send out volunteer waivers to all of our volunteers because it's a dangerous situation. It's an unprecedented dangerous situation where they potentially are coming into contact with contaminated things. We have a sanitation policy that they need to read. That's why we have a training course. It would be great to have that embedded somehow in the system, is to be able to do some sort of like sign so that they say, I've legally seen this is the blah, 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 and then they sign it, e-sign it, so we don't have to worry about exchanging paper formatted contracts in a time where anything can be contaminated. That might be super helpful for us, because the service right now, most platforms are web services that cost monthly, upwards between $20 and $50 a month, depending on how many contracts you have to sign out. They also don't let you send mass contracts. You have to do one at a time, which is very, very annoying. And then it's also us being on that tracking system, moving the PDFs from that software as a service onto our drive, and then going back into our spreadsheet and clicking that they have signed the waiver form. So that is a really difficult, and I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to add that on.
Are you thinking integrating with EverSign or ditching EverSign entirely
Ditching
and going?
EverSign in itself, because why are we making people pay for this service is kind of
Yeah,
it's a silly thing, right? You just go and click one more page and then you read through it and then they have to sign it and then it pops up again saying, listen, have you really actually read this? Because legally, this is a legal document. They have to click that again and then it's done and then it can be sent over into a space somewhere on the server where they're all collected and then it can automatically just check the box on the spreadsheet of the offers.
yeah, yeah. I think there's definitely things we can work on. In the UK, we have something called the DBS checks, which that's not exactly the same thing as what you're talking about because that's a waiver. DBS checks is more about checking if they've got a criminal record to see if they're allowed to be volunteering. But we've already built tools to manage the process of DBS checks or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if we can do something similar. And certainly once your dev team gets involved, again, Drupal, open source stuff, um, uh, it'll be very easy to have that as something unique to the US. Because I do know that the US is a lot more litigious, a lot more suing of people, and the legal side of things is much more important.
It is
Whereas in the
so important, and we've had so many discussions with lawyers about this because we're like, what happens if we deliver peanut butter to someone's house and they're allergic to peanuts and they die? Are we liable?
yeah, well, I've heard of stories of people of what is it? I kept hearing recently of someone who was an unofficial lifeguard saw someone drowning, went to rescue this person,
And
and
then
she
we're
got the
sued for rescuing them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, she lost it, the person suing them, but then the stress of going through that is awful.
You also need to
Um,
pay for a lawyer and all of these things up front.
yeah.
So
Um,
it's
the, the world that you we don't quite Europe is much less like that. UK is somewhere in between the US and Europe. But right now, the general advice, like we have GDPR, which is a big thing, but the government is sort of saying, although there's a lot of things people do that are technically illegal according to GDPR, the ICO, the kind of body in the UK that will actually prosecute people, have said we're going to be really relaxed about this. If you're sharing people's data for the purpose of helping them with coronavirus, that's not a big deal. If you take a little bit longer to tell us you've had a data breach because everyone is not at work anymore, it's not a big deal. So
that's nice.
we're kind of at a government level trying to be relaxed about it. So yeah, definitely something we can work on. But once you've got your dev team in, I know Drupal very well, so I'll definitely be able to help any devs figure out how best to quickly build something like that so you can avoid ever sign.
Great.
The stuff I've seen that's really cool with the signing things is making it so there's a really easy app so you can draw on your phone and your signature.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that would be brilliant. And are you guys thinking about moving this to mobile?
so I've started speaking to other people who are already doing apps. Our company, I've built apps before, but it's all mobile friendly. But what I found is that just mobile apps, they're just so much more expensive to do
It's
than they are.
crazy.
If I want to change something on a website, it takes me 2 minutes. If I want to do it with an app, I have to go through the Apple, um, you know, process. I have to test it on loads of phones. So I think if this were to take off, I don't like apps myself. My wife hates apps, so I'm a bit anti-apps. But I know other people love them. If this were to take off, I think integration with apps would be very key. Drupal
Yeah.
is a good REST service, so it will connect with apps easily, and we have done that. But my hope is that we'll eventually find people who specialize in building apps, not least because they'll have all the phones to test them on, and
For
they'll know how
sure.
to the thing than us. But we can
It's
build something. I
it
just doubt it will be the best use of our time.
it's so crazy because we were looking into developing our own like social e-learning platform for organizing together. And then we, in our research, stumbled on Mighty Networks, and there were two big things that really were important. Is a Mighty Networks doesn't take your information; it's owned by you. And then the
Mm.
second bit was it was already mobile friendly.
Yeah.
So like I was like, that's done. It's a done deal for me at that point because mobile I think is very big here in the United States.
Mm.
Particularly we're focused. So one issue we've had and discussed this is okay, how do we get people who need requests who don't have the internet, who don't have computers? And mobile, obviously, there's lots of people who don't have phones either, but it just gives it one more step into like allowing people to make requests. that's people can, use on their phone. And then we're also trying to collect extra smartphones from people, and are giving them out to unsheltered individuals, so that they can get access. And then right now in the United States, there's several telecommunications companies who are offering free data, for people so that they can communicate with others.
Cool. Okay, so in terms of mobile friendliness, everything that we're doing that is sort of there's a front end and there's a staff use side. The
Yeah,
front end is very, very much mobile friendly, and we focused on that. The
great.
staff use stuff, um, we we try to make it a bit mobile friendly. It is mobile friendly in theory. There's some work we can do on it. If that becomes a need, then we can put more effort into that. Generally speaking, the staff view is built for people sat at a desk, whereas the front end stuff is built for people on the move. And we
So
can't.
when we're sending, just a quick question, sorry, and I haven't been able to go through and test out everything, so I feel bad if this is
No,
obviously apparent on the app. But so for instance, we have dispatchers, like you said, the staff that sit at home. We contact people who've made offers. We ask them, hey, do you have X supplies? Can you drop it off at a person's house on their porch? And then we ask the person who's making the request if it's okay if we share that contact information.
yeah.
And then is there a way to push the contact information to the person who had made an offer?
Yeah, yeah. So it's not quite there yet, but what you can see when if you were to log in, is you'll be able to log in and look at your user dashboard, and you can see your own requests that you've submitted. Because our current focus has been on staff, we've deprioritized any of what I'm calling front end stuff. But I think the front end stuff will suddenly become much quicker. I want to put a lot of effort into the safeguarding question of that bit before we got lots of random people using it. But you can see in your user dashboard a list of the requests you've submitted. So I think what we'll be doing very quickly is building the other side of it, which is on my user dashboard a list of requests I've been assigned to me. You can see we've already got integration with maps. So it will be a case of when you're a dispatcher, you'll log into you'll log in using your phone, and it will be mobile friendly, but it will be a web app that you've logged into that will show you a list of all of those things.
Okay.
I know web applications can push notifications to your phone as well. So that's the main thing that an app is really good at, is that they're better at pushing really, really in-your-face notifications, um, um, compared to just web stuff. But yes, and I think you'll be able to see when you look at the user dashboard, you should be able to see quite easily where that stuff will fit.
And as a staff member, is there a place? So, for instance, there's general like asks requests, right? You're like, okay, I need groceries, but like
Mm.
into like what type of groceries? When we contact the person who's made the request, we usually make a list of like specific needs. Um,
Okay.
and we can then edit that entry and go into specific needs, or is it still just general?
You can edit those things. Staff can edit those things. So
Okay.
the way we're doing things is the basic data structure of a support request. We're separating out profile information, which is about you as a person. So it'll be your address, phone number, any important things about you. So in the UK we have an official vulnerable persons list, which means that you have specific health conditions that are the more important ones for coronavirus. And then we have whether or not you yourself have had coronavirus or you currently have it. So those kind of information, that's on the profile. Then on the support request itself, it's just title, body, and tags. And the tags are centrally controlled, but you can type in other. And the idea is that the tags are going to be the main thing that everyone sees. And then when they click on it, they can then see just a description, just a body field, where you can type whatever you like.
Great.
So it could be a shopping list. Again, because of the way Drupal's structure is with entities, it wouldn't be that hard for us to make it so that different support requests capture very specific data if this were to scale up. But at the moment, a title and body field, you can type whatever you like. So it
Okay.
makes it easy.
Great. Great,
Yeah.
great, great. And I'm sure lots of other people will have questions about this because we'll have to have one with the dev team, one with our great membership. So we're going to be talking a lot over the next couple weeks and having a lot of meetings. But feel free to reach out to me if you need anything. What I'm going to do today, as I said, once you send over all the information, I'm going to send that out to the dev team, get feedback on their meetings. We have our next meeting scheduled, and then once the dev team says, yes, we feel comfortable doing this, this is our timeline, as long as we have everything we need to set up this, and we can set the servers up. And then once everything is set up, then I think it would be good to then maybe schedule a joint meeting with all of our volunteers, that if you don't mind leading kind of, and I will record it so then they can go back and watch it and you won't have to do it again.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Jamie. I'm going to prepare for my next meeting.
Okay, have fun.
Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.